Good afternoon. Welcome to Midcap Radar. I'm Sonal Bhutra. With me is Vivek Iyer. Looking good for the markets. There's a bounce back. A lot to talk about. Buzzing stocks in the broader market. So let's get started, Vivek.
Right, quite a lot of stocks moving around in the broader end of the markets. Mid-cap, small-cap doing quite well. But first up, let's have a look at the headlines. Stocks see a good shade of green, with advances far outnumbering declines. Energy and industrial lead gains, while FMCG lags. Mid-caps relatively underperformed.
Gravita zooms over 8% on the back of positive commentary from Kotak. The brokerage initiates coverage with a buy call and a target price of 1,200 rupees as they forecast 20 to 22% revenue growth in the next 3 years.
ABB India surges 6% after brokerage firm UBS maintains its buy rating but raises the target price to 7,550 rupees a share from 5,380 rupees a share earlier. They cite emerging growth drivers in the electrification and the transport segments.
Well, AMC companies or asset management companies, they are buzzing in trade after Kotak predicts a soft landing for small and mid-cap fund flows, as growth tailwinds will likely be the strongest for HDFC AMC.
CDSL slumps over 4% after 7.4 equity worth 1,712 crore changes hands. Aster DM Healthcare 2 slips more than 7% after 10.1% equity worth over 2,000 crore rupees is traded on the exchanges.
Okay, all right. So it's looking like a good day for the markets. 163 points higher on the Nifty. The broader markets, they are also doing well, slightly underperforming the benchmarks, but that's really nothing to worry about. At the day's high right now, the mid caps also up 300 points, and across the board, we do have a lot of movers. Nifty Energy, for instance, is up 1.5%. We have Nifty Auto gaining with 1.2%. The small cap index too is up around 1%. So there is some comeback that we are seeing in the mid cap and the small caps now. There was a flash as well that there are a couple of stocks which have been 25 of them which will be eligible for T+0 settlement cycle from March 28th. So those stocks will be important to track as well. Something like an Ambuja Cements, Bajaj Auto, Bank of Baroda, BPCL, Birlasoft. We'll name those stocks closely, but across the board, it's looking good for the bulls, and we'll have to see whether that momentum continues or not.
You're right. So now, last couple of weeks, the biggest worry as far as the market was concerned was the kind of swift sell-off that we saw in the mid and small cap indices. But if you're looking at it, the mid cap, the small cap, and the Nifty 500 or the NSE 500 index, all of them have been continuously gaining for the last 4 to 5 trading sessions. In fact, a couple of stocks that took quite a bit of a beating. So if you look at names like IIFL Finance, JM Financial, last couple of trading sessions, last couple of weeks on the back of regulatory action had seen significant sell-off. But today, most of these stocks have come back and bounced back quite significantly. But we have a lot more stocks, in our special segment, mid-cap movers. We have Hormas to take us through the mid-caps that are moving around in session.
Where the markets are cheering the truncated week, aren't they? And the Nifty is at the day's high, so is the broader markets. But there are plenty of movers. As you mentioned, IIFL Finance is one of the top gainers on the mid-cap index in today's trading session. They're almost 10% higher now. It's on the circuit. Piramal Pharma is the mover. There is at the day's high now, 4.5% for Piramal Pharma as well. Indian Hotels, Tata Chemicals out of the F&O band today, so 4% higher there. Adani Power and a whole host of other power stocks are also doing well for themselves in today's session. Other than that, it has been a day of block deals and QIPs. And it's an opposite side of the spectrum. Angel One launched a QIP. That stock is up 8%. Walkhard closed its QIP. Some marquee names in there who have been issued shares. So it's an upper circuit of 5%. But CDSL and Aster DM, no signs of recovery from the lows. 8% now for Aster DM, although CDSL has recovered slightly from the lows of the day. Plenty of stocks that saw some positive brokerage commentary, and they are reacting to that. Gravita, where Kotak initiated coverage, 9% higher there. Info Edge with a note from ICICI Securities, 5% higher. And ABB India with that UBS raising its price target to almost 7,500. That stock is up 6%. Stock gaining on the back of strong volumes, and Lakshmi Machine Works is leading the charts there, 12% higher on that stock. Prism Johnson as well, up 5.5%. Sanofi India and Electra Greentech at the day's high on extremely strong volumes, up 8%. But the underperformers in today's trading session, there are quite a few, despite the markets doing well for themselves. And Solar Industries is one of them, 3.5% lower. CAMS and Colgate both are now down to the lowest point of the day, 3% lower each on both of them. And Jubilant Ingrevia completes that list of losers, down 2% there as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Hormas, for joining us. So that is the list of movers in the broader markets. It's a good time to welcome Ruchit Jain from 5paisa.com for a technical check. Ruchit, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. What are the charts suggesting the next levels to watch out for?
Yeah, hi, very good afternoon, Sonal. Very good afternoon, Vivek. Well, we have seen that the support base in this up move is getting shifted higher. If you look at the option segment for tomorrow's monthly expiry, and a lot of put writing has been seen at 22,000 and 22,100 puts. So, which indicates that probably the downside should be limited in the short term. And on the higher side, the 61.8% retracement of this recent 800 points correction is placed around 22,250 kind of mark. So I think we should see an up move towards that 22,220 to 250 range until the supports are intact. I think the short-term momentum would continue to be on the positive side, because if you see, it's not only that some of the large caps have been taking the index higher, but last 2 or 3 trading sessions, the broader markets, so the mid caps and the small caps, have also been participating with higher volumes.
Ruchit, which are the individual stocks that you're looking at? Anything that you like at this point of time?
So we have a couple of buy recommendations from the large cap space for now. One is a buy call in L&T. So one cannot ignore the capital goods segment, because if you look at last few weeks of corrective phase in the markets, the capital goods entire segment has relatively done quite well during correction times. So look at stocks such as ABB, Siemens, they all have been moving higher, supported by good volumes. So L&T is also on the verge of a breakout from a cup and handle pattern in technical analysis, and this should lead to the next leg of up move post the recent consolidation. So short-term traders can go long on L&T with stop loss below 3,640 and expect targets around 3,780 first, and their positional targets around 3,900 also could be seen. And Sun Pharma within the pharma space too is looking quite positive. The entire corrective phase of last 2 to 3 weeks was more of a time-wise correction within an uptrend. The volumes during price down moves were quite low compared to what volumes we have seen when the stock is going up. So I think Sun Pharma is also a good buy over here with stop below 1,550 for potential targets around 1,700.
Okay, all right. So Sun Pharma is one of the top picks as well. Ruchit, thank you so much for joining us today. As we slip into a break here, some good news that we would like to share with you. Money Control has further strengthened its position as India's premier business news platform, beating Economic Times across key metrics. According to ComScore data for the month of February, Money Control has the largest number of unique visitors. It has also maintained its massive lead in page views and time spent. We would like to take this opportunity to thank you, our viewers and readers, for reposing your faith in Money Control and Network 18.
Welcome back to Midcap Radar. In the midcap and the broader end of the markets continue to remain quite positive. The breadth too remains quite positive. A couple of stocks on the radar, but the first stock that we'd like to pull up is Wockhardt Pharma. Yesterday, we saw a very large block deal take place over there. And post the block deal, a couple of quant analysts estimated that the counter now, or the stock now, would have enough headroom to go and enter into the passive indices. So after that, when you're talking about, we were talking about Mankind Pharma. Mankind Pharma was the stock that saw the block deal happen yesterday. After that, analysts estimated that on account of the increased headroom, you would actually see the stock enter into the passive indices. So MSC entrant, this stock is a likely entrant there. And on the back of that, you actually saw quite a bit of an increased buying that has come in post the block deal. The stock is doing quite well in the session today, up almost 5%. But the next set of stocks that we'd like to discuss is the renewable energy pack. So two stocks on the radar, every time we talk about the wind renewable energy, number one is Inox Wind and number two is Suzlon. A very interesting note coming in from Anand Rathi on both of these names. So Anand Rathi has initiated coverage on Suzlon. They have a buy rating on the stock. The target price is at 49 rupees a share. They believe that Suzlon, that currently enjoys close to 32% market share in India's wind turbine market, is all set to play a decisive role as India's domestic wind capacity ramps up to 100 gigawatt from the current 45 megawatt. Along with that, they are saying that they expect to see a 64% PAT CAGR from FY24 to FY26. So they've initiated coverage. They've assigned a PE multiple of 35 times FY26 price to earnings, given the company's dominant market share position. Back of that, the stock is quite active in the session. The next stock, of course, is Inox Wind. Over here too, they have a buy rating. The target price is at 590 rupees a share. They've assigned a price to earnings multiple of 30 times FY26. And they believe that this particular stock is all set to benefit from the upturn in the sector. Debt has come down on account of the promoters infusing funds into the company, and they expect 450 megawatt of delivery in FY24, which believes that they believe increases the strong prospects of the company.
Okay, all right. So that's about Inox Wind and Suzlon. Both stocks are doing well, and they've been doing well for quite some time now. Let's focus on green panel industries now. Nuvama has retained a hold rating on the stock. They've cut the target price. But what was the management meet takeaway? Manglam is joining us with the details. Manglam.
Well, it's a tough industry currently right now, and this is the MDF industry that I'm speaking about right now. Nuvama met the management recently, and remember the BIS for MDF was deferred for a bit. So MDF imports, which is basically one of their key products, had briefly halted in February and March, and they are now likely to return from mid-April itself. But will that cause an impact on the Indian markets? Well, turns out not so much in the very near future, because there's been a 150% spike in freight rate that could reduce the price competitiveness of foreign players itself. But by and large, this industry has been facing three big problems. One is excess capacity. Everyone's been talking about, adding MDF capacity, and all those capacities now coming on stream as well. Secondly, there's a high amount of imports coming in from Far Eastern countries and some African countries as well. And the third one is their raw material prices. Elevated timber cost also has an impact on the business. So these are all supply side issues. There is strong demand, which is expected to compound between 15 to 20% CAGR, but with so much capacity, green panel industries, along with all the others, are focusing on market share, and that may have a pressure on the margins itself. So as a result of which, Nuvama says that they are, cutting their FY24, FY25 and FY26 expectations, EPS expectations by 7, 13 and 13% respectively, and that leads them to cut their target price from 373 to 345, and as a result of which they maintain their hold rating on the stock. Remember, from the highs, we've seen a fair amount of correction for all these MDF players.
Thank you so much for that, Manglam. Let's now shift our focus to Wockhardt, which has completed a fundraise. Ekta with more details. Some interesting names there, Ekta.
Well, yes, Wockhardt is in focus because they've raised 480 crores via QIP. The QIP is 92.85 lakh shares at 517 rupees per share. It's a discount of around 4.97% to the floor price of 554 rupees. The QIBs allotted include ICICI Prudential, 20.83% to 3 funds there. Tata India Opportunities Fund, 14.58%. 3P India Equity Fund, 16.04%. Mirai Acid, 9.37% amongst funds from that space. Cohesion MK Best Idea Subtrust 6.25%, Invesco India Small Cap Fund 6.25%, Gagandeep Credit Capital Private Limited 5.46%, and Shubhkam Ventures another 5.38%. So overall, they have raised over around 438 odd crores from this QIP.
Okay, all right. So that's about Walcott. But Ekta, you're also tracking Sopi India. It is buzzing in trade today. Tell us what's happening here.
Well, yes, Sanofi and Cipla have announced an exclusive distribution partnership. Cipla will be responsible for distribution of Sanofi's 6 CNS brands, which is central nervous system brands in India. This includes Sanofi's leading brand in the anti-epileptic category, which is Frisium. Sanofi India will continue to own and manufacture the range of CNS products. So while it's marginally positive for Cipla because they don't have a presence in CNS, Sanofi is actually gaining because there will be a reduction in terms of the cost that they spend when it comes to distribution and marketing for their CNS brands, which will now be taken over by Cipla, and hence you can see the stock higher by around 3%.
Thank you so much for that. Ekta explains the up move in both Sanofi as well as the positive momentum that we're seeing in Cipla. But now, as we slip into a short break, we have a big announcement to share with you all. We are launching CNBC-TV18's first ever live finance personal webinar, CNBC-TV18 Accelerate Personal Finance Handbook with Sonia Shinar, where she will be joined by 3 well-known market experts on Saturday, 11th May, 9 a.m. onwards. We'll be diving into everything you need to know on how to master your finances and learn how to grow your wealth, be it insurance, tax saving, managing your portfolio, retirement planning. There's a lot to learn and a lot to do. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s, this live webinar is for you. We have limited seats, so don't miss this chance. Register now. Scan the QR code to register or log on to cnbctv18.com and we will see you on 11th May.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Midcap Radar on CNBC TV18. Well, we've been speaking about a whole host of broader market movers as well. This is our special segment now, Midcap Spotlight. Rima is focusing on Info Edge. The stock is up nearly 5% today. Rima, what's happening here?
Well, ICICI Securities today has come out with a note on Info Edge where they reiterate their buy call, but they've raised the target price considerably. The new target price stands at 6,993, nearly 7,000 rupees, much higher than 6,150 that they earlier had. The key reasons are, one, they're saying the jobs peak index is showing a marked improvement in the hiring trends, particularly for the IT sector. And remember, IT sector hiring is a key driver for the Naukri revenues. So that's a big positive. Secondly, according to ICICI Securities, 99 Acres, which is the real estate portal of Info Edge, should turn profitable in Q1 of FY25, given the strong tailwinds in the underlying real estate sector. And thirdly, Info Edge is holding in Zomato. Now, Zomato is up 68% in the last 6 months, and according to ISEC, there is more upside in Zomato. Now, Info Edge has about a 13.7% stake in Zomato. So, if you value it, they've upped the value that which they ascribe to Zomato for Info Edge. So, these are the 3 key reasons why ICICI Securities has raised the target price on Info Edge, driving the stock higher today. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Rima. Almost 5% higher is what we're seeing on Info Edge. Let's move on now. Birla Opus has announced prices for its paint foray and stated that the products are priced at almost a 5% discount to the Asian Paints catalog. They will also give an additional 10% quantity to dealers across stock keeping units. To discuss how this will impact the paint industry, we spoke to Abhijit Roy, the MD and CEO at Berger Paints. Listen in to excerpts from this particular conversation.
As of now, whatever we have seen, we are cautious but not worried. I would place it in that manner. We need to keep watching this space, more closely. But whatever so far we have seen, they have introduced certain products. We have tested those products. The quality of it is quite similar to what we have already in the marketplace. Nothing spectacularly different there. The pricing that we have seen, from the leader, it is 5% lower, except for luxury category, in which, it is priced at par with the leader. We also operate at prices which are about 4 to 5% below the leader. So it's matched to our prices almost. industry, and it is not only in India, it is worldwide that it takes time. Incremental steps have to be taken. It doesn't happen like in a burst unless the existing players make some mistakes. So in my opinion, therefore, it will be a slow grinding process. It will not be as fast as possibly anticipated. It might be lesser than what the projections have been given. I don't think it is impossible to achieve those targets, but it is highly improbable that the targets will be hit. Now, this year, we expect that with increased competition, this 12% volume growth may become 11% volume growth, sort of.
Okay, cautious but not worried about the competition upcoming in the paint space. That's the word coming in from Berger Paints. But let's focus now on Shyam Metallics. Their joint venture company, National Resources Energy, has received a letter of intent from Government of Maharashtra for Surajgarh 1 iron ore block. Company is also foraying into greenfield expansion. Let's listen into what Kshitij Agrawal, the whole-time director of the company, had to say about their growth prospects going forward.
Foil stock is currently comprises of 85% of the entire COGS in the manufacture of foil. This would come down to approximately 75% once we have our own unit in place. We will be adding approximately 1,200 crores to the top line conservatively. And the unit, as I said, would hit commercialization in 2026. So there would be a slow ramp-up process, but by year 2 to year 3, we believe that we will hit the 1,200 crore revenue mark. I can project a volume growth for the next year at a rate of 20 to 22%. Apart from this, we are also adding further finished steel capacity on the cold rolling mill side, which is also a much value-added product. And this would sort of be to a tune of 0.2 million tons. So currently we have a pending capex of approximately 5,000 crores, which goes into 27-28. So we have approximately over 3 years to complete this capex. We have already commissioned capexes worth 3,000 crores in the last 3 years. And we believe that 24-25, we will be accruing a further capex of 2,000 crores, with major of the capex outlay coming live in the second quarter of the year.
Well, an interesting conversation there as well. Now we'll have to wrap up on this edition of Midcap Radar, even as the small cap index now nearing the day's highest points. But that's all we have time on this edition of Midcap Radar. Your stocks when we return.